We see the pivot into Typhlosion with that shield advantage, and out comes Swampert. Of course, Swampert should be fully walling our moveset, but Typhlosion does not care about typings. K-Twin can invest the Protect Shield, blocking up the Hydro Cannon, farm up to the double Blast Burn, and this one is only going to end one way. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have an absolute banger of a battle submission from one of the OGs, K-Twin7. K-Twin7's actually took 2 years off the Go Battle League. He's back, and he is using a destructive duo with Shadow Typhlosion, a new kid on the block, Shadow Malamar. Despite taking 2 years off, K-Twin7 has found the Go Battle League much like riding a bike. You simply don't forget. He is already legend rank and he's looking to have fun, hence using this destructive duo that is going to make battles fly by. Despite K-Twin actually sending me 2 sets today, the battles are so fast, this video would have been around 13 minutes. So first, we're going to have his 2 sets, and then we're going to have at the end of the video, me trying out his team. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, K-Twin leads Shadow Malamar into Jumpluff. This is Shadow on Shadow Crime. This matchup isn't anywhere near as bad as you might think, as Malamar is just such a busted Pokemon. It was able to help me personally hit legend rank this season. The Fairy Winds might be super effective, but you can see that 2 foul plays actually remove Shadow Jumpluff from the field of play. K-Twin looks to call the Aerial Ace bait, the opponent full send the Acrobatics, we send out Typhlosion, and here comes Drapion. K-Twin going to be instantly putting up that Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Aqua Tail. In this matchup, once again, as it is Shadow on Shadow Crime, you don't even need a full send a Blast Burn. The Incinerators have already got Drapion below half health. We fire off the Thunder Punch, getting our shield back, and send out Jumpluff. The Flying Cotton Ball going to be operating as the damage sponge, as Typhlosion's put in so much work already. Jumpluff only needs to fire off an Aerial Ace to remove Drapion from the field of play. Down goes Drapion. The opponent sends out more Peko. K-Twin committing to the Acrobatics and full sending it, wanting to guarantee the final shield or land big damage. Acrobatics forces the Protect Shield. The opponent looking for that Thunder Shock farm down. Jumpluff says no, reaches the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace won't be lethal. K-Twin sends out Typhlosion. Yes, we get the Incinerate snipe. The opponent might be doubled up on charge moves, but they're only going to fire off 1. We invest that Protect Shield. The opponent sends back out their own Jumpluff. We fire off the Blast Burn. Massive overkill. And we're off to a very quick 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. As I did actually run this team myself, I can say this team is so much fun and perfect for the Go Battle Week, as battles do fly by. Heading into the next battle, we see Malamar into Corviknight. Despite our sideways being resisted, this is actually a pretty good matchup for Malamar. We've got a heavy pace and advantage, and you can go for a foul play into Superpower to pick up the knockout. We're actually going to see K-Twin invest a Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Sky attack. He's then going to overfarm, but actually side-waved enough that even a foul play threatens. The opponent potentially shield or just take their shield advantage. Down goes Corviknight, and out comes Galarian Moltres. We're going to pivot into Jumpluff. Jumpluff, waste no time, goes straight for the Aerial Ace before we potentially get Brave Birded to the face. Aerial Ace goes unshielded. Is the opponent going to full send, or are they going to throw the Ancient Power? K-Twin looks to call the Ancient Power bait. Oof, there's the Brave Bird. Jumpluff might be bulky, but that is a clean 1-hit KO. K-Twin finds himself in somewhat of an awkward position, as the opponent still has 2 Protect Shields to hide behind. We send back out Malamar, and the opponent staying in with a harshly lowered defense. Look at that Psywave damage. That is supposed to be double resisted. The opponent fires off the Ancient Power, removing us from the field of play. We send out Typhlosion, and out comes Clodsire. In this matchup, I would say don't bait. Not that I bait often, but if the opponent call the bait, it is curtains for us. K-Twin full sends the Blast Burn, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. Typhlosion going to be investing in the Protect Shield, shielding up the Stone Edge. 1 further Incinerate, and the next Blast Burn. Clodsire, you sir, might be bulky, but Typhlosion says you're not bulky enough. Blast Burn picks up the knockout. We Incinerate farm down Moltres, and we'll be emerging victorious. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow Malamar into Shadow Typhlosion. The battle of the oppressive fast move damage. I always cut out the trainer names, so I'm actually going to tell you who this is against. This is against my friend Conviper. For those of you wondering why I cut out the trainer names, well, I do like to cuss a bit, and I try and have some fun, and some people might get offended. That is just the world we live in. We obtain ourselves a shield advantage, send out our own Typhlosion. Out comes Marowak. Marowak going to fire off the Rock Side. Rock Side going to do around half. However, the fast move pressure is non-existent, as Jumpluff triple resist ground. We see beautiful energy management on display. K-Twin heavily overfarms, fires off the Acrobatics, removing Marowak from the field of play, and as he perfectly overfarmed, he's able to one and throw this Aerial Ace, potentially knocking out Typhlosion before the Incinerate damage registers. Viper has other ideas. Invests the Protect Shield on his Typhlosion, fires off the Thunder Punch, removing us from the field of play. We actually get one turn bring in there, which is kind of unfortunate. We could have potentially knocked out this Typhlosion with the Thunder Punch. Ah, Viper. I love you, bro, but double Mud Slap, not like this. Oh, Claydol withstands the Blast Burn. We get Mud Slap farm down and take a heartbreaking loss. GG's to both trainers. Heading into the next battle, we've seen a familiar lead. Despite the opponent hitting for neutral their sand attacks and us hitting for resisted, with our sideways, it's a very advantageous spot for Malamar to be in due to the heavy pace and advantage. The opponent fires off the Sky attack, we withstand the damage, and once again K-Twin looks to pick up the knockout with the foul play. Foul play actually forces the protection. The opponent going to look for that sand attack farm down. Come on, if you're going to use Corviknight, you should know by now the fast move pressure is non-existent. We see K-Twin aggressively send out Typhlosion in an attempt to snipe Corviknight. The opponent not falling for any of K-Twin's shenanigans, and Azumarill hits the field of play. We're actually not going to shield Typhlosion here, as Ice Beam is survivable, and we're going to be able to undertap this Thunder Punch, and then this 2-shield Jump Bluff versus the Wild. We know Corviknight is still around, but they've got no Protect Shields to hide behind, and they should find themselves in Acrobatics range, as it is just such a busted move. Jump Bluff hits the field of play. We're instantly going to put up that Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Sky attack. K-Twin going to just set off with the Aerial Ace. I don't know if this is Aerial Ace range. Aerial Ace is a pretty garbage move, hence I call it Aerial Ace. It's actually survivable. I guess we attempted to catch there, anticipating the opponent having a charge move. I'll be honest, I've got no idea where that Corviknight's energy's at. The opponent sends out their own Malamar. We fire off the superpower, debuffing our defense and minimizing the farm. I think we've always got to no-shield these moves in case Corviknight does have a move banked. As they're not the Shadow Malamar, 2 foul plays that should be survivable. Jump Bluff fires off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace isn't quite lethal, but this foul play once again is going to be survivable, and I think we're home and dry. Corviknight is never ever fast moving us down, as them sand attacks are triple resist and they already do no damage, and we're able to take that game. Heading into the next battle. I didn't even see what's on the screen. Oh god, it's some kind of 10 CP nonsense. The opponent clearly tanking for rewards. Not a huge fan of it, but I do understand why. This TM system is an absolute joke. Heading into the next battle, we see some Shadow Squid on Squid action. Well, actually, Tentacles are Squid. What's this thing? It kind of looks like a calamari. However, let's not get distracted. I guess the victor in this battle will be whichever Malamar has the higher attack. The opponent striked first, firing off the foul play, and interestingly, it looks like they're looking to fight for alignment as they instantly shield our first move. K-Twin fires off the next foul play, and he's able to win CMP, and at this point we can instantly no-shield knowing the opponent is energy dry. K-Twin looked at Malamar's remaining HP, said that looks like 2 Incinerate range to me, and it is indeed, meaning we don't even take a charge move. Typhlosion sees Diggersby enter the arena, they're instantly greeted with a Blast Burn, and Thickersby doesn't look that thick after all. K-Twin going to invest the Protect Shield, the opponent go for the Fire Punch bait, but no bait is going to save them from the wrath of Typhlosion. Out comes Tinkaton. Oh boy, trainer. Uh-oh, you're in trouble. Thunder Punch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We YOLO the Blast Burn. Get that Tinkaton off my screen. The opponent hasn't even seen our third, and we take that game. Typhlosion absolutely popping off. When Tinkaton was first released, everyone was hyping it up, saying it's going to be a meta breaker. And all I was thinking is this gives Typhlosion yet more play, as you can see an example of in that previous battle. In the next battle, we see Drapion in the lead position. We fire off the superpower, then pivot into Jump Bluff to operate as the team's damage sponge. The opponent fire off the Crunch. I believe they got the defense drop there, which means this next Crunch might actually knock us out. Jump Bluff actually able to withstand the damage, which means potentially they didn't get the debuff, or K-Twin's IVs are better than mine. I'll be honest, I shoutcast on my phone and my eyesight is garbage. So when I'm shoutcasting battles, for anyone that's wondering, the screen I'm looking at with the battles is smaller than my little finger, which is kind of funny. The opponent caught the acrobatics onto Big Man Blastoise. We then sent out Malamar, fired off foul play, removing them from the field of play. Back out comes Drapion. Malamar going to fire off the superpower, which will either knock out or force that final Protect Shield. We force the final Protect Shield, and Typhlosion hits the field of play. Typhlosion into going to pop that Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Aqua Tail. It looks like K-Twin, more than happy, just a double shield, fully incinerate farm down, and as long as it's not Gastrodon potentially, what else can beat Typhlosion up 2 shields? Maybe even an energy lead, nothing. It's a zoom rule, and we all know how this one ends. The first Thunder Punch does around half their health. The second one should knock them out unless they're heavily XL. The opponent actually able to survive. We pivot into Malamar. Attempt to Psywave farm down, unfortunately unable to do so. The opponent fire off the Ice Beam, but Typhlosion gets off one further Incinerate. Incinerate farming down a zoom rule. We're leaving with the Thunder Punch, and Thunder Punch is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow Malamar into Clodsire. So I've seen a lot of people hyping up ridiculously attack-weighted Malamars. However, I'm going to tell you, you want a pretty well-balanced one. If you've got 116.45 defense, you're actually able to take one less damage per Poison Sting. And in the matchup, of course, Poison Sting is a 2-turn move. They're going to throw a lot of them. That can be absolutely game-changing. My Malamar actually beats Clodsire in the 1-2 shield, which is pretty absurd. My friend Conviper actually did a deep dive on IVs for Shadow Malamar. Interestingly enough, we actually played Conviper in this video, and it's actually the only loss K-Twins received. So my Malamar has that bulk point. And when I see Clodsire, I am off to the races. Evidently, I'm not doing a very good job of shoutcasting this battle. However, for anyone that wants to invest in Shadow Malamar, which I think is an absolute top tier pick, and they don't know which one to invest in, rather than blindly listening to people saying build an attack weighted one, drop me a message on Discord and I'll help you out making sure you reach all the attack and bulk points you need to. You can actually hit a sweet spot where you reach numerous breakpoints, bulk points, and HP checks. So if you're someone that plays Show 6 or like to take this game reasonably seriously, you can certainly build an optimal one. And you'll find that is leaps and bounds better than something random you just invested in for no reason whatsoever. Returning to the commentary, Typhlosion going to invest the Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Swift. The opponent actually able to withstand the next Incinerate, reach the departing Swift. Swift will be knocking us out, but Malamar is still alive and well, able to Psywave farm down Clodsire, re-enters the arena, and the opponent concedes the match. GG's. Heading into the next battle, and I promise this time I'm actually going to try and commentate. Malamar into Dragonite. This is a very nice matchup for Malamar. They are doing more fast move pressure than us, but we do have the pacing advantage. We're able to fire off the foul play, of course, forcing a shield. When does Dragonite not shield a move, especially from an opposing Shadow? Opponent fire off the Dragon Claw, removing us from the field of play. We send out Jumpluff. Jumpluff going to be looking for the Fairy Wind farm down, but unable to get it before the Dragon Claws reach. Dragon Claw gets us below half health. Have a Jumpluff leaves with the acrobatics locked and loaded. Out comes Corviknight. We pivot into Typhlosion and Swampert hits the field of play. Of course, on paper, Typhlosion's fully walled here, but Typhlosion simply doesn't care about type-ins. We're going to shield the Hydro Cannon farm up to the double Blast Burn, and this one is only going to end one way. The opponent can pick their poison. Blast Burn, remove Swampert from the field of play. Back out comes Corviknight. We reach the double Thunder Punch. The first Thunder Punch goes unshielded. We're able to reach one more. The opponent's forced to shield this move up, and if they shield it up, we can just go for the combo play with the acrobatics. Right on cue, we give them that wham, bam, combo play, give the opponent the Big Mac and the fries, and we're able to emerge victorious. GG's. I do wonder if the opponent was on Sand Attack and not Steel Wing. Would have they been able to farm us down? Probably not, as Sand Attack's trash. Heading into the next battle, we see Dugong in the lead position. We're actually going to YOLO the superpower right off the bat. Dugong users love to shield the first move. Oh, fuck about and find out, trainer. The opponent near gets one shot. Even with -1 defense, Malamar able to withstand the incoming Icy Wind. However, as our Psywave damage is reduced, it looks like we can't Psywave farm down. We fire off the foul play. This opponent shields the low health Dugong just to force alignment, which probably means they're running some kind of RPS nonsense in the back. We send out Typhlosion. The opponent's instant Ferocious is likely an Icy Wind, but sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. We invest to Protect Shield. Out comes Marowak. We pivot into Jumpluff, and the opponent sends out Charger Bug. Jumpluff's pretty comfortable into Charger Bug, especially for how busted a move Acrobatics is. X is a hits for neutral, likewise Acrobatics only neutral, but look at the damage, it's absolutely sickening. We're going to see K-Twin invest to Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming X Scissor. He's looking for that Fairy Wind farm down, able to get it. The opponent dies at the next charge move. Back out comes Marowak. Once again, YOLO in the Acrobatics. Big fan of that play. Acrobatics lands, one Fairy Wind and the Aerial Ace. The opponent hanging on to that final Protect Shield, but you've got to use it at some point. The opponent does invest that Protect Shield. Jumpluff able to outpace to the next Aerial Ace, and Typhlosion is going to get a well-deserved rest on the bench. GG's. Huge shout out to K-Twin for providing a very fun team for us, and good to have you back playing, buddy. For the remainder of the video, it's going to be washed up Jamie Finn at 1415, heading to battle using K-Twin's team. in the first matchup. I lead Shadow Malamar into Shadow Marowak. I'm actually just going to YOLO the Superpower, because I'm here for a good time and not a long time. Superpower, forced to protect shield. I was really hoping to sneak it through the shield, but kind of is what it is. A non-stab Superpower does do more than a foul play, and my thought process in YOLO in the nuke is either guarantee the damage, or with the Mud Slapper in the lead position, hopefully Typhlosion will be able to sweep the back line. The opponent actually sends out Corsola. I'm going to bank a bucket load of energy and send out Typhlosion. I know I'm going for the one shield. I'm going to then fire off one Incinerate and the Blast Burn. Blast Burn will be moving them from the field of play. And if Marowak does return, they've got residual energy, but they're going to have to dump it into Typhlosion, as the Incinerate damage and the threat of a Blast Burn will do too much. The opponents, to my surprise, don't overfarm whatsoever. I think that's really poor gameplay mechanics from them. They should have thrown one Mud Slap, as they could have got off a residual Mud Slap without taking the Incinerate damage. However, the opponent sends out Toxapex. They're probably thinking, I've got you, buddy. However, Jumpluff might have a little something to say about that. Let me tell you, I'm going to YOLO Acrobatics after Acrobatics, and the opponent now find himself in Aerial Ace range. I'm able to fire off the Aerial Ace on the CMP tie, what is likely a brine bait. However, I know I can just shield this up. I'm then going to farm up. Once again, trap this Toxapex into the CMP tie. They do not win. I don't think I played this battle particularly well on my team comp call. However, the energy management absolutely on point, if I do say so myself. When Marowak does return, I'm going to be able to outpace to the Acrobatics, and Jumpluff is a Toxapex counter confirmed. You heard it here first. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we see the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death in the lead position. The Incinerate damage is going to melt through Shadow Malamar. However, we do have the pace and advantage. We're going to fire off the foul play. Foul play obtains me an early shield advantage, and the opponent opts to instant throw energy. I could play the one shield scenario out, but I love to just save all my shields for Typhlosion wherever possible. Typhlosion hits the field of play, and out comes Cradilly. Oh boy, trainer, you are not in for a good time. I'm just going to shield this Rock Tomb. I'm going to throw two Incinerates, which is suboptimal timing, but at this point I'm doubled up, so the opponent can't shield. Well, they can shield, of course, but I'm just going to throw back-to-back. Blast Burn is shielded. I am going to fire off this next Blast Burn, keeping one shield intact. Blast Burn easily picks up that one hit KO, and out comes Guzzlord. I'm going to pivot into Jumpluff. The opponent is still switch locked. Talonflame re-enters the arena just to get greeted with the Acrobatics. Talonflame going to be straight in and straight out. The opponent sends back out Guzzlord. Even if they've got a Sludge Bomb, so be it. Sludge Bomb is survival. The opponent does throw the Sludge Bomb. Jumpluff simply doesn't give a shit. We're able to reach the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace won't be lethal, but gets some low. The opponent recognises the game's over and concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Primeape in the lead position, and this mad lad is actually opting to stay in, so I'm going to try my luck at a very risky close combat catch. They could actually throw an Ice Punch, as Ice Punch does do slightly more than the Rage Fist, but thankfully we're able to successfully catch the close combat. They didn't look all that resisted. My Jumpluff save switch is answered by Big Man Blastoise. The opponent shields up the Acrobatics. Acrobatics does hit hard, but potentially shielding, fearful of an Energy Ball. The opponent then full send a Skull Bash, removing me from the field of play, and I've now got to deal with this buffed up Blastoise. However, it's nice to bait this thing out, so Typhlosion doesn't have to see it. I fire off the foul play. The first foul play doesn't get the job done. I don't really want to face a boosted up Blastoise with my Typhlosion, so I'm going to mess the Protect Shield. Back out comes Primeape. I'm going to fire off this foul play. Foul play, of course, will be lethal. The opponent invests that Protect Shield. This is only a Rage Fist. Rage Fist will be survivable. I can now pivot into Typhlosion to get a 1 Incinerate running start. And when Blastoise does return, Typhlosion is going to be a Blastoise counter confirmed. The opponent recognises that and concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Dugong in the lead position. We saw K-Twin just YOLO the Superpower, and the opponent showed absolutely no respect. However, I think Dugong uses always shield. I rarely bait, but I'm going to fire off the bait, and thankfully, Jamie Finn's the best master baiter in the world. As I haven't debuffed my own defense, the Icy Wind doesn't do much of anything. I'm then going to overfarm, hoping at -1 after the Icy Wind debuff. A Superpower still picks up the knockout. Unfortunately, it does not, but the opponent looks for that Ice Shard farm down, but Shadow Malamar will not be denied. Did I not tell you IVs matter? We're able to win the 0-1 shield scenario, and out comes Annihilate. Of course, we're just going to send Jumpluff into the arena. We pause a turn, ensuring the opponent doesn't make a catch onto something like Bastiodon, which is potentially what they got in the back. Actually, to be honest, if it's Bastiodon, I'm probably cooked. This battle's kind of funny. I was playing in the 2900 ELO range, and this opponent's actually not legend yet. I make an absolute potato play. Seeing the opponent switch, I go for the classic you switch, I switch, and my Typhlosion gets absolutely deleted. So if the opponent wants to win the game, I've got no intention of shielding anything. They throw the correct move, they can remove Jumpluff from the field of play. Trainer, throw the Rock Slide. The opponent fires off yet another triple resisted Bone Club, and ironically they concede the match. I was going to give it to them, but it's not meant to be. Heading into the next battle, we see Malamar into Corviknight. This is actually a pretty decent matchup, despite my quick move being resisted. I actually believe my Malamar doesn't have a Psywave breakpoint against this thing, so I've got a more well-rounded one. So you're going to see here, the foul play does put him below half health, but I'm not actually entirely sure that a foul play would remove him from the field of play. So I'm actually going to play it safe, fire off the superpower, guaranteeing the knockout. Malamar able to win the zero shield matchup. Out comes Talonflame. Of course, I don't want to pivot into Typhlosion and eventually get Jumpluff aligned against this. I'm going to fire off the foul play, even at -1, commanding a Protect Shield, and send Typhlosion into the arena. I always joke about myself being washed up, but there is absolutely no chance I'm ever going to let the opponent catch when they're using a 5-turn move. We pause, ensure Talonflame's on the screen. So what I mean by pause is nice and simple. Wait for the Incinerate to start. The opponent's running Flame Charge and they're going straight Flame Charge all the way. Again, we pause, ensuring Talonflame remains on the screen. Thunder Punch will be moving them from the field of play, and out comes Toxapex. I'm going to fire off one Incinerate and the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is going to do some decent damage, and then I'm going to pivot into Jumpluff. Here, you're actually going to see I could throw this Acrobatics, winning CMP. However, if I do that, that gives the opponent the potential to overfarm. We actually tank the Sludge Wave on minimal HP, return fire with the Acrobatics, and now the question becomes, can we Incinerate farm them down before they Poison Jab farm me down? The answer to that is yes. Typhlosion, able to Incinerate farm down one of the bulkiest water types. Who was worried? I'll be honest, me. But we're able to get the job done. Heading into the next battle, we see Malamar into Cradilly. Unfortunately, this is the regular variant of Cradilly. If they were the Shadow, I could YOLO a superpower before the Rock Slide comes through and just look to cleanly knock them out. We get off as much Psywave damage as we physically can, fire off the superpower, forcing a Protect Shield. We look to trap the opponent into the CMP side. They do not win. The opponent actually like, no, trainer. I'm just going to take the extra. But they actually double shield. A -1 superpower wouldn't have knocked out, but I am not complaining. This now sets up Typhlosion with that magical 2-0 shield advantage. However, as they've got energy, I'm just going to soak one on Jumpluff. Then it is Typhlosion time. Hopefully, no ground type. The opponent's actually the one that takes the initiative, being aggressive with their switch, and I'm really glad I wasn't spamming the switch, as the ground type that I was fearing hits the field of play. If I would have been spamming the switch like an absolute lunatic, we would have Simul swapped, and I'd probably be saving 2 shields for next season. I'm actually going to invest one of my 2 Protect shields on a double debuff Jumpluff, probably giving the opponent the suggestion I'm insanely weak to Mud Slap, but as they're switch locked, there's nothing they can do about it. We fire off an Aerial Ace, removing them from the field of play. There's the aggressive pivot into Typhlosion, and out comes Morpeko. Whatever they throw, I don't really care. I'm just going to shield. They go for the Psychic Fangs bait. Their timer will be popping up. The opponent tries to make the catch. The catch attempt unsuccessful. Cradilly going to be straight in and straight out. Blast Burn picks up that 1-hit KO. The opponent can remove me from the field of play if they fire off the Aura Will, which they do, but Jumpluff is still alive, is still healthy. We Fairy Wind farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Gliscopod in the lead position. X-Scissor would cleanly knock out as it's double super effective. I try my luck catching it onto Jumpluff. The opponent read me like a book, hold their energy, and send out Morpeko. It's matchups like this why you realise how good Jumpluff is in the Great League. We might on paper be fully walled, but Acrobatics hits like a truck. We YOLO the nuke, looking to force a Protect Shield or guarantee the big damage. The opponent fucked about, they find out. We're able to Fairy Wind farm down, leaving with the Aerial Ace good to go. And this is actually best case scenario, as it's going to force Gliscopod's hand. Now I quite fancy Malamar into Gliscopod. As we've got an energy lead, I see Gliscopod remains on my screen. We're just going to fire off the foul play before the opponent has any ideas of trying to make the catch back on me. The opponent going to fire off the X-Scissor. You can have Malamar. We're going to save Typhlosion with a shield advantage. Hope it cooks the back line. Out comes Cradilly. My, we all know how this one's going to end. Of course, we're always shielding up the Rock Tomb. We're going to fire off one Incinerate and the Blast Burn, which is good fast move timing, only giving the opponent 1 free turn. The opponent looks to call the bait. They get nuked through the final Protect Shield. Back out comes Gliscopod. 1 further Incinerate and the Thunder Punch. This is -1, but it still picks up the 1 shot, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Toxapex in the lead position. Normally when I'm running triple Shadow teams, this thing is like the bane of my life, as it is so bloody bulky. But now Shadow Malamar's here, this is such a good spot to be in. Look at these sideways chunk. I normally like to give Typhlosion all the shields, but if the opponent's staying in such an atrocious matchup, they've clearly got something else that doesn't want to see Malamar. The opponent fire off the Sludge Wave, then send out the big fat bunny. Superpower gets no respect. Diggersby gets absolutely rocked. We then save Malamar for whatever that final Pokemon is and send out Jumpluff. So here, I could have fired off the Aerial Ace, but I know the opponent is never shielding this move as they've got a Toxapex. So instead, I'm more than willing to tank the next Fire Punch, and we're just going to continue to overfarm. This ensures I've got residual energy good to go. Should Toxapex return, or we can just start spamming charge moves at whatever their third is. The opponent likely brings back out Toxapex. It hits the field of play, and we are YOLO in the Acrobatics. Acrobatic sneaks through 2 Protect Shields, and out comes Shadow Machamp. After seeing Toxapex and the Big Fat Bunny, I was expecting some other boring, bulky Pokemon, but fair play to this opponent. Aerial Ace forces the first Protect Shield. I send out Malamar, and I'm committing to fast moves. Poor old Shadow Machamp might have thought the Fairy Winds were bad. We then started throwing Sideways, which the opponent probably thought, this is even worse. Then they see the Shadow Incinerate user. Typhlosion goes to the 1 shield. Full Incinerate farm down. I'm so sorry, Machamp. And we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Drapion in the lead position. Drapion going to actually go for the Aqua Tail bait. I throw 1 Psywave. I thought about baiting, but fuck it. Let's just YOLO the Superpower. Superpower forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. We then farm up and look to make an Aqua Tail catch onto our Cotton Ball. My Jumpluff Safe Switch goes unanswered. The opponent happy with this matchup and are going to stay in and fire off a Crunch. I'm really worried the opponent's going to try and catch an Acrobatics onto something that does resist flying, so I pause, ensure Drapion remains on the screen. Acrobatics are certainly going to be lethal from here. The opponent actually goes all in on Drapion, and I'm thinking, what the heck's in the back? The opponent then looks to Poison Sting, farm me down, unable to get it, reads the Departing Aerial Ace, leaving them on a fraction of HP. Despite them being on a fraction of HP, of course, we're always going to get a free Incinerate. The opponent actually YOLO the Crunch, and they get the defense drop. They then send up Big Man Blastoise. We throw 1 Incinerate and the Thunder Punch. I really need to get out, because I don't want to take all this aggressive rollout damage. We're able to snipe with Malamar. Foul play. We'll be moving Big Man Blastoise from the field of play, and the opponent sends out Lapras. If you're wondering how much a Shadow Superpower does to a Shadow Lapras, this much. High Lapras, by Lapras, and we take that game. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's Shoutcast. A huge shout out to K-Twin7 for showcasing this phenomenal team. Holy cow, this team is so much fun to use. I would definitely recommend it. If you've got access to these 3 Pokemon, you are going to be in for a good time. I actually really enjoy this type of content. I love shoutcasting other people's battles, and I have a lot of fun using their team and seeing if I can get my head around how to use it as well. If you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you'd like your battles featured on my channel. A link to my battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.